Hello, Canada, and welcome to another episode of the Maple Pill. I'm your host, as always, Matt McKeever, and tonight we've got a special episode where we're really just going to be dialing in and focusing on everything going on with the Freedom Convoy going on here in Canada that it seems like the mainstream corporate press is just completely ignoring. They've completely forgotten it. It's really frustrating me, and if you're kind of confused about what's going on, I don't blame you because there's not a lot of coverage in regards to this, and yet it seems like one of the biggest protests that we've experienced in, as far as I can remember, a really long time, possibly ever here in Canada. And it's crazy to me that we find ourselves where you can't find almost any coverage on CBC or in the Globe and Mail or the Toronto Star these days, and that you essentially need to look outside of it in order to become informed. But a quick little reminder in case you guys are new to the Maple Pill before we jump into this special episode. The idea behind the Maple Pill is essentially your weekday daily dose of the blue pill, red pill, black pill, clown pill, and white pill, where I try and help you navigate what's actually going on, what's narrative, what's fake news, because these days it's harder than ever before. That's not to say in the past we lived in some, idealized time where you could actually trust the media, but I think a lot more of us did. And as we continue to see narratives evolve, as we continue to see essentially all kinds of lack of reporting around subject matter that just doesn't serve the current politicians and the corporate press, I think it's more important than ever before we take it upon ourselves to inform ourselves. So tonight we're doing a deep dive into the Freedom Convoy and everything involved with it. And I guess before we even jump into sharing some of the stories, a reminder, as always, links to everything we're going to discuss are in the video description down below. I really encourage you guys, don't let this episode be the end of your information journey. Really let this just be the beginning of going down that rabbit hole, starting to do your own due diligence and your own research, because I think it's more important than ever before we become informed citizens, because we can't trust the government. We can't trust the corporate press. We need to be able to actually gather from multiple sources and make independent decisions for ourselves. And if you haven't realized that over the last 2 years, I think you're missing the plot of what's been going on since 2020 here in Canada and across really all Western democracies. So the Trucker Convoy, there definitely has been all kinds of misreporting and misinformation around it. And this morning, I actually downloaded an app, which I'll share with you guys in a second, called Zello, where you can actually hear into a lot of the truckers. They're jumping on there. It's kind of a walkie-talkie app, sharing their opinions. And honestly, it was some of the most wholesome stuff I've experienced in a really long time. It was just good vibes. It just felt like authentic Canadians sharing their perspective. Lots of people had their children coming on and just saying, like, thank you, truckers, let's go, truckers. Truckers were jumping on real quick just to honk their horns and things of that nature. And again, I actually started off this morning really being white-pilled, really just feeling like, yeah, we've got this. The tides are shifting, and in fact, the narrative is starting to evolve in a direction that's more freedom-oriented and more individual autonomy-oriented, which you guys know me, that's a big plus in my world. So the first thing I want to share with you guys, and this is kind of wild in my opinion, and I encourage you to, click the link in the video description down below and listen to this entire clip, but I'm just going to play a section here. And this was our buddy Mark Parvalos from Canada Poly. We've talked about Mark in the past. He called into the Liberal Party just to ask their official opinion on what's going on in regards to the Trucker Convoy. I thought this was really interesting. Now, I've sped it up a little bit just to try and make it a little bit more brief for us. So it's 1.25 speed. But let's jump into it. I'm pretty sure I got my audio share working here, guys. So if you can't hear it, let me know. But let's listen in.
Canadian Trucker Alliance said they're for the vaccine mandate at the border.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what happens when the truckers all show up? Because I heard there's like 50,000 trucks. That's a lot of trucks heading to Ottawa.
There's not 50,000 trucks. I mean, Ottawa, that's a lie. And I'd be surprised if 10% of them will actually make the trip to Ottawa by Friday.
Have you been watching the news? Have you been watching the videos?
Yeah, I saw a few videos of trucks leaving like a place in BC. Yep, that's all I've seen.
Yeah, I think they've crossed 3 million, heading towards 4 million on the GoFundMe. But anyway, regardless of that, so the Liberal position.
The GoFundMe was managed by an Alberta separatist party, so they're probably just grifting the donations. I'm sure you knew that, though.
No, I didn't know that. Is the Liberal Party position that the GoFundMe people are grifters? Is that what you're telling me?
No, it's something I've seen. It's not an official position, but it's something to look into because I've seen that run on Twitter. Like Gerald Butts, for example, said that it's a bit suspect. People running.
Well, he didn't call them grifters. I'm calling you as the representative of the Liberal Party to tell me what the Liberals think. If you're telling me they're grifters, that's different.
I think there's a chance. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the official.
I'm not the leader of the party, obviously, but I'm saying there's a chance because it's very suspect.
Okay, you represent the party, and you represent the party, and you're backing that up. Okay, I'm just making sure that I understand that.
Yes.
So you think they're grifters? Okay.
I think there's a good chance. Yeah, I've said many times there's a good chance. I didn't say that yes or no. I said it's very suspect. Let's just.
Well, I'm calling you for information, and you're telling me that they're grifters, and I like.
No, I didn't say that.
There's not a whole lot of information out there about this, so I just think that it's very interesting. Man, like that's pretty grave. Interesting to say.
I know.
So you don't think the truckers will arrive in Ottawa? You think this is going to be a nothing burger?
I think it'll be maybe 10 at the most. Yep.
You think there will be 10 trucks?
Yep. Even then, I'd be surprised. It's a week-long trip. It's going to cost thousands of dollars. All that for what? Like even their alliances against what they're doing. The U.S. border is shut by the U.S. government, but not by the Canadian government. So even they wouldn't be able to go into the U.S.
Why would they want to go into the U.S.?
No, because the U.S. government itself has said that you need a vaccine proof to go into the U.S.
Right. Well, but they're not talking about U.S. right now. Like their issue is with the leadership of the current government.
They won't even be able to enter. Even if Canada said yes, it's fine. They wouldn't be able to enter the U.S. So what?
Well, if the Canadian, I think it would be a different situation. But we can talk about semantics. Like I don't want the details. I understand what you're saying.
It's a pretty big deal. Don't just gloss over it. It's actually.
Well, it is a big deal. But if the Canadian government
realize all of that, they'll be. Do I want to spend thousands of dollars driving to Ottawa for something that? I mean, they're not going to change Biden's mind. So
when did the U.S. government implement this?
Oh, it was last week, man. Come on, try to keep up.
Last week they did. What date?
All right. Well, I'm going to stop there, but I encourage you guys go and listen to the full conversation. But to me, this just highlights the hubris that the Liberals have at this point in time when it comes to Canadians. They don't think that we're intelligent. They look down upon us. Now, I'm going to give this Liberal representative the benefit of the doubt and assume that he meant 10% and not 10 trucks. Because if he literally believes only 10 trucks are going to show up, like that's asinine and embarrassing in my opinion. Because, I mean, me and the boys could round up 10 trucks and get there tomorrow if we really wanted to. So let's assume that he meant 10% of the 50,000 trucks that some people are reporting are likely to show up. Some people are saying upwards of 500,000 Canadians will show up. There also appears to be convoys of U.S. truckers that plan on coming. And if they're stopped at the border, it looks like they plan on just kind of slowing things down at the border crossing. Again, this is a very dynamic situation, but the hubris behind, come on, man, keep up with the news, as well as just, the dismissiveness, the essentially framing this entire movement as being grifters. And, the fact that they raised, now it's over $4 million. And we'll show you that to you in a second, over $4 million on GoFundMe. This hubris pisses me off because these people are supposed to work for us, not the other way around. We're not their slaves. We're not their servants. We're not their chattel. And for them to treat us so dismissively, again, I've headed up to here. At this point in time, I feel like this trucker protest is more than just about vaccine mandates at the borders, right? This is about the fact that we're seeing in Europe, the narrative shifting and evolving where those countries are opening up. We've got places like Florida that essentially barely ever shut down. We've got countries like Sweden that barely ever shut down. And yet at this point in time, Canada, as I've said before on this show, is essentially in a death match with Australia to see who can out-tyrant the other side. Again, it grinds my gears to no end, the hubris on this phone call. But let's leave that there for now. We'll shift gears. Essentially, I want to share with you guys Canada-Unity.com. They've essentially mapped out the entire route with time so you can kind of know what to expect if they're coming across, your path. I really encourage you guys, if you've got the capacity, the ability to do so, go support them. Show on the side of the roads, right? Like just show up on the side of the roads, honk your horn, have a sign, whatever it is. I think this is more important than ever before. And again, this isn't just about truckers not wanting to be vaccinated. This is just, at this point in time, it's a proxy, right? This is something much bigger than this. The average Canadian, in my opinion, has been frustrated about what's been going on for an extended period of time. And this is just kind of the spark, the catalyst for all of us to really start directing our frustrations at the government and the mandates and the medical tyranny towards something mildly productive. And that's why I personally think we've seen so much money raised over such a short period of time. In fact, just as luck would have it, the truckers will be stopping in Kenora tonight, which works out perfectly because I'm only less than an hour and a half drive from Kenora. So I think a few of us from the Citadel plan on driving up tomorrow morning to see them off as they leave Kenora. If you guys are going to be in the Kenora area, slide into my DMs, leave a comment on this video. Let me know as well if you guys have been following along, if you went out and supported them when they were in Winnipeg or Saskatchewan or, you know, across the board, Alberta and BC. But again, it's great to see this because I think that we needed some sort of catalyst, some sort of spark. I think truckers are the perfect kind of group of people. You know, there's a lot of truckers in Canada. I think that it said over 160,000 truckers. I feel like everyone's got a friend or a family member that is a trucker, whether that's short or long haul. And again, I'm really excited to see it gaining momentum. Right now, here's the GoFundMe. It's at over $4.7 million raised. And I forget when this started, but created January 14th. So again, let that sink in. In essentially 11 days, they've raised $4.7 million. And now there's been a little bit of controversy going on around the GoFundMe. We're going to cover that in a second because, again, in my opinion, mainstream media is doing a giant disservice to everything going on, whether it's the CBC talking about hundreds of truckers from BC, whether it's global news essentially trying to frame them as, you know, white supremacists, white nationalists, and extremists. Again, I've got links that we're going to be covering here in a second. But again, it's great to see this. I was honestly, as I was saying, when I was listening to the Zello app, I was really getting excited because I've been looking for something to channel my energy towards. And so what I want to share with you guys real quick, if you want, I've screenshot and shared on my Instagram stories, Matt McKeever Unfiltered. Again, link in the video description down below. But go download the Zello app and join the Convoy to Ottawa channel. And again, when I was listening to it, it was literally only good vibes. One person jumped in and kind of trolled the group, and everyone was very calm, very peaceful, just very Canadian, to be honest, in regards to how they handled it. As well, if you're looking for more information, I really encourage you to follow Canadian Freedom Convoy 2022. I quickly just wanted to share this little clip of some wonderful people making lunches to support the truckers, and this honestly just warmed my heart as well.
Sun's coming, with glowing hearts we see thee ride, the true north strong and free from fall.
So again, I feel like Canadians have been looking for an outlet. We've been looking for something to put our energy into. So I think this is a perfect opportunity. And I don't think that it's filled with just grifters, despite what the Liberal Party representative might be trying to tell us. But continuing on there, as well, if you're on Twitter, you know, check out the Canada Unity and Freedom Radio. They've got lots of great coverage of what's going on. They're doing some polls, lots of video shots as well of the convoy moving. And certainly it seems like more than just a couple hundred people are supporting this movement. As well, there is a Telegram channel. I've got a link in the video description down below if you guys want to join the Telegram. It looked like there was tens of thousands of people in it last time I checked. I believe there's tens of thousands of people on Zello as well. I've never even heard of the Zello app before last night when I downloaded it to join it. But let's move into some of the misinformation that's really pissing me off. So global news here. Far-right groups hope trucker protests will be Canada's January 6th. And now they really had to stretch this shit in order to even try and make this argument. And honestly, I think that these reporters, I'll use air quotes, should be embarrassed about this article. The cope is strong with these individuals that just love medical tyranny and hate the fact that people may want individual autonomy. So Canada far-right and white nationalist groups see the so-called Freedom Convoy, in air quotes, of course, as an opportunity, with some hoping the protest will be Canada's version of last year's January 6th riot in Washington. Hundreds of truckers and their supporters are making their way from BC to Ottawa for a planned protest outside Parliament on Saturday. So again, there's that narrative that it's hundreds instead of what appears to be thousands of people. But a review of the protest's online communication, including real-time chatter over walkie-talkie app Zello, suggests a collection of grievances and anti-government sentiment that extends beyond vaccine mandates. Oh my God, anti-government sentiment. That sounds so dangerous. So here's one, direct quote, "Fucking A, guys." And they spelled A wrong. Like, come on. If you're Canadian, you know that's an EH, not a capital A. "Fucking A, guys. Let's get pumped for this. Let's go to fucking Ottawa," said one supporter described by anti-hate activists as a far-right vlogger in a recent YouTube clip. So this is a random YouTube clip from someone that is deemed by an anti-hate group as far-right. They don't even tell us who the person is, so we can't really confirm whether this person is a far right vlogger. What does far right even mean at this point in time? As well, if this is an extreme statement, fucking A, guys, let's get pumped for this. I mean, they better never go to a hockey rink, because I think you'll hear stronger language around the rink than you're likely to hear according to that. Further on one Facebook group connected to the convoy with more than 35,000 members, one user recently asked, what would happen if the military stood behind us and not Trudeau? Oh my goodness, think of the extremism there, that they called him true dope. And they asked what would happen if the military actually decided to defend individual rights rather than simply follow orders. Oh my goodness, this is far right and extreme. If anything, another direct quote they're using here, if anything, we should grab Trudeau by the goddamn neck and kick the shit out of him for what he's done, said the user, who was immediately reminded by several others to keep things peaceful. So yeah, one dude says like we should grab him by the goddamn throat and kick the shit out of him. Now again, does that person literally mean it? I feel like it's a stretch to say that, but then the fact that several people jumped in immediately after and were like, yo, dude, you need to keep it peaceful, keep it PG. I heard that come up multiple times while I was on Zello, because there are young kids listening to it. Again, this is the most respectful protest. It's so obvious that global news, the mainstream media, wants to frame these people as some sort of evil so that they don't have to take our opinions seriously. And that really frustrates me, the dehumanization of your fellow citizens. The more extreme comments from supporters may not reflect the view of the convoy organizers and participants. One organizer, Bridget Belton, told Global News Monday that protesters looking to cause havoc should stay home. Again, why air quotes around these things if that's what she literally said? Why not just share with us exactly what she told you? Again, from everything I've heard from organizers and just participants, this is solely intended to be a peaceful protest. Now, again, could there be bad actors? Absolutely. Could those bad actors actually be government provocateurs? Absolutely. As we've seen, in the Michigan plot to the states, as we saw on January 6th, right? I'm trying to remember, what is it? Ray Epps? Who's Ray Epps again? And then further on here, on the protesters' Zello chat, many supporters hope their protest would result in an end to vaccine mandates and other public health measures designed to limit COVID's death toll as the Omicron wave continues to spread. And despite organizers' promises of peaceful protest, the issue was consistently framed as an existential battle. It is an existential battle for our freedoms, for our personal bodily autonomy. If you don't see it at this point in time, you literally already consider yourself chattel of the government, right? You're just another asset on their books that they can do with as they see fit. A direct quote, "We need our freedom back. We can't keep living like this," said one user. Yeah, I don't think that that's crazy. I don't think that that's extreme. I mean, every episode of the Maple Pill is far more extreme than that quote. Another one, "So thank you so much for putting your guys' life on the line." Yep. I really do appreciate these truckers going above and beyond. How many other Canadians had the balls to step up and speak out over the last 2 years? Not nearly enough. That's the honest answer. Moderators, meanwhile, repeatedly urge participants to be so respectful and to be on their best behavior. They're going to be blown away by our kindness, said one. Yeah, I can see how this is being co-opted by far-right groups that hope the trucker protest will be canned as January 6th. I mean, again, there could be bad actors and there could be fringe elements, but for the love of God, at least find some of them and get some crazy ass quotes from those SOBs if you want to make this article even seem like you're even mildly trying to be honest with the average Canadian in the subject matter. And again, I think global news should be embarrassed by this article. Moving on, I want to just briefly talk about the Canadian Trucking Alliance. So this is regularly quoted in mainstream press as the Canadian Trucking Alliance is against the Freedom Convoy, and that's true. However, if you look back on previously what the Canadian Trucking Alliance said, they originally were against vaccine mandates. They've completely flip-flopped on it now. I just thought this was interesting that their 2021 annual meeting for the Canadian Trucking Alliance was held in Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah, that checks out. And then, if you want to see who's actually on the board or the executives, you have to be a member in order to actually see who's involved in this organization. That seems completely above the board that the Canadian Trucking Alliance would host their annual event in Arizona, and that, we can't actually find during a pandemic nonetheless as well in 2021. And we can't find out who their executive members are unless we're a member. Interesting. Let's just leave it at that. Moving on, continuing some of my frustrations and others' frustrations around the mainstream corporate press's narrative. This is from the Counter Signal. Really appreciate Kian and everything that he does with his reporting. And so this is an article where he's covering CBC lies, massively downplays Trucker Convoy, says it's about icy roads. And so the CBC did eventually kind of clarify their statement and added a little byline. We covered that in yesterday's story. So again, if you guys want to deep dive into it, I encourage you to do so. There's also a link to everything I've shared so far in the video description down below. But yeah, it's just very obvious that the mainstream press, that the politicians, they all wish they could just close their eyes and ignore this, but I don't think they're going to be able to get away with it this time. I'm really proud of the truckers that are actually going to rub their nose in this and actually show up in Ottawa and speak their mind, because someone needed to do it. And another article from the Counter Signal: Ontario police investigate constable who thanked truckers fighting for freedom. Now, I saw this already circling on social media. I think it's got tens of thousands of views. But Durham Regional Police have launched an investigation over a video made by a constable who wanted to thank truckers for fighting for Canadians' rights and freedoms. This is a direct quote from what she said. I want to give a shout out to all the truckers. I think that you guys are doing incredible. You're fighting for our rights and freedoms, and right now it feels like we're a little bit at war, and those rights and freedoms are at stake, said Constable Aaron Howard in the video. You guys are honestly true heroes. So, according to the CBC, the video published on Twitter on January 4th immediately prompted Durham Regional Police to launch an investigation, saying that Howard's views are not representative of other officers. We were made aware today of a video circulating on social media from one of our uniformed members regarding the Freedoms Rally, the Durham Police said in a tweet. The views expressed in that video do not reflect the views and opinions of the Durham Regional Police Services. We are currently looking into this matter. Yeah, I'm glad that that's the thing that triggers an investigation immediately. And again, she sounds like she must be one of those far-right agitators. The cope is so strong at this point in time that I legitimately can't believe that this is the angle that a lot of the mainstream media is taking in regards to the trucker convoy. And another big frustrating part of disinformation, and this is from the National Post via MSN. So Gofundme causes confusion over freezing multi-million-dollar fundraiser for truck protests. So confusion swirled Tuesday over conflicting reports that Gofundme had frozen a multi-million-dollar fundraiser for a massive transport truck protest convoy. So despite reports from the Canadian press, the Freedom Convoy 2022 campaign had been put on hold by the online crowdfunding platform. The fundraiser's website appears to be running as normal and accepting new donations, sitting at just shy of 4.5 million by early Tuesday afternoon. As we saw, it's now 4.7 million. The fundraiser started January 14th by Tamara Litch, an official from the Western Separatist Mavericks Party, proved wildly successful, recording nearly 58,000 donors, with at least 7 giving donations in excess of $10,000. The Canadian press reported GoFundMe froze the fundraiser, with a company spokesperson explaining they halted the campaign until organizers could provide a plan on how the funds were to be dispersed. However, as of Tuesday afternoon, new donations continue to pour in, ranging from a few dollars to several hundred. So again, I saw some mainstream Twitter blue check mark account saying that, this was a sign that this was obviously, grifting, or this was, the Maverick Party was going to hijack these donations or something to that effect, when that just isn't the case, right? GoFundMe, especially on large fundraisers that get a lot of attention, they want to make sure it's legitimate. They want to see a plan in place. They can't act like our federal Liberal Party, where essentially they just do, remember that SNC Lavin, the $150 million, we talked about this in previous episodes, the $150 million emergency field hospitals that essentially some were never delivered, some were delivered late, that we've never literally used, that were sole sourced by one service provider because we were just in such a panic. Yeah, well, actually, I've got no problem with GoFundMe, as well as the creators of this, putting together an actual plan on how to spend that money versus, Canadian politicians that say budgets balance themselves and don't worry about deficit after deficit, even though it's been how many years now that we've been running deficits, and how many trillions of dollars in debt are we? Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Again, at this point in time, it feels like mainstream media should really just stick to its lane, because all this false coverage is honestly only eroding the public's trust. You know what? People they use social media. They look to alternative sources these days. So just because CBC says one thing or Global News says one thing doesn't mean that we literally just swallow it hook, line, and sinker. Some of us are actually capable of independent thought. A lot of you watching this are, and I appreciate that. And if you guys are enjoying this video, if you're enjoying what I'm trying to do with the Maple Pill, smash the like button. But let's continue down what's going on. So again, I just want to highlight this other post from National Post. First reading, the giant trucker protest Ottawa is strenuously ignoring. And again, it's very obvious that they're doing everything they can to ignore this. So there's a pretty substantial truck-based protest movement sweeping the country right now. Freedom Convoy 2022, composed of hundreds of semi-trucks setting out from cities across Canada with the goal of converging in Ottawa in order to protest vaccine mandates. And now, if you guys are actually following along on social media, there's a couple different reports, but it sounds like it's anywhere from 70 to over 100 miles long at this point in time. And they still haven't even entered Ontario, the most populous province here in Canada, right? When they're framing it as hundreds of semi-trucks, well, these hundreds of semi-trucks appear to be setting off from multiple different Canadian cities. And once you start adding up multiple hundreds, it turns out that actually adds up to thousands. So it'd be kind of cool if the mainstream press, the corporate press, the prestige press would actually start doing that now. And a Facebook group for the convoy has almost 400,000 members, more than 1/100th of the Canadian population. Again, this isn't immaterial in my opinion. And I can't believe that they're all just Russian bots at this point in time. I think there's some honest, true, red-blooded Canadians following along with this that actually are frustrated. Whether they're directly frustrated with just the vaccine mandates for truckers, or whether they're just frustrated in general because of all this bullshit that we've been swallowing for the last 2 years as Canadians. It's more important than ever before that you guys are having tough conversations, that you're sharing real facts with your friends and family, because right now, if they're only watching the mainstream corporate press, they're not getting the full story whatsoever. And Blacklock's reporter also touched upon this. So Fed's quiet on truck convoy, and they just highlight some of the different things that the Fed seem to be focusing on, rather than the fact that, hey, actually a lot of Canadians are frustrated about what's going on. Again, links in the video description down below. If you guys want to find out just some more general information about what is actually going on in regards to these protests, again, I shared a bunch of resources, but Laura Lynn, Tyler Thompson's BitChute channel, she's got tons of footage, lots of B-roll and video footage of the actual truckers, the signs, you can actually start to get a feel for how large and encompassing this actually is. As we mentioned, from Countersignal, Keen, he's been just crushing it with his reporting as well. So I encourage you guys follow him on Twitter. You'll find lots of great information about what's going on. As well, Marie Oakes, she's been doing great coverage. And also Andrew Lawton from the Andrew Lawton Show. Again, this is just a quick little snapshot of some of the resources I'd encourage you guys to start doing your own research on in regards to what's going on with this. Because again, corporate press is not your friend. They literally think so little of you that they assume that you won't trust your eyes, that you won't trust your ears, that you'll simply only trust them when it comes to the narrative they want you to swallow. As well, Rebel News has an entire series of threads and videos on what's going on. And definitely, there's a couple good ones here. The cancel culture comes from the Trucker Convoy, or comes for the Trucker Convoy, I should say. It's very obvious that if the mainstream media, not Rebel News here, but the mainstream media, if they can angle this as, it's just a bunch of, white nationalists, a couple, Wexits, people that, Western Canada exit, that want to leave Canada. That's all this really is. It's not the average Canadian actually is frustrated, tired, and just exhausted of everything that's been going on in regards to COVID mandates, lockdowns, and all the other bullshit, especially now when we can actually see, Florida, Sweden, some European countries, as I was mentioning, that seem to have just decided, nope, the narrative's falling apart. We're done with this. Let's move on with our lives. That's not to say that we're just free and clear, even if Canada tomorrow was to, wash their hands of all the crazy policies we've got, because we can see they're gearing up for a war in the Ukraine. We can see that they're really gearing up for a war on climate change as well. And, we've mentioned it before on the show, but the price of liberty, the price of freedom is ever vigilance. So again, it's more important now than ever before that you guys speak out, that you have those tough conversations with friends and family members. And I also wanted to highlight this article from the National Post. Rex Murphy, truckers are the proxy protesters for a lot of angry Canadians. I 100% agree with this. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if there's individuals that don't even really care about the trucker mandates, but they actually just care about individual freedom, or they actually just care about, speaking truth and being honest. Again, you could literally be pro everything, right? You could be like, govern me harder, daddy. I want 20 boosters a day in order to be safe. And yet, again, maybe you were just like, hey, all that being said, I think the corporate press should actually report reality, though, right? If there's actually thousands of people going, if there's going to be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people descending on Ottawa, they should do that. And if it turns out that this is all just smoke and mirrors, cloak and dagger, and I'm lying to you, and all the posters on Twitter are lying to you, and all the truckers are lying to you, well, then send some goddamn field reporters out there and just prove it to us. Is that so hard? Right? Like, it'd just be so easy for them to send one reporter out, take a clip, and if it's only like 10 dudes driving their truck, according to that Liberal Party person we listened to at the start, show it to us. Is that so much to ask? But going on into Rex's article here, and again, I think there's some really great points. A true protest, one that's grounded in actual circumstances that arise from long-term government overreach, grave impingement on the freedoms of majority of citizens, one that emerges from discontent, long discounted and ignored, built around the cardinal idea of pursuing a legitimate livelihood. Well, that's rare. That's what we're seeing with the truckers. Discontent with authority may slumber for a very long time. 100% agree. As we started this show off with, the hubris the Liberal Party has. Justin Trudeau, essentially, in my opinion, believes it's his birthright to lead you, right? In a different era, he would have been the worst fucking king in the world, in my humble opinion, because the hubris from him, his party, the individuals that think that everyone that's smart agrees with them, and everyone that's too stupid to make their own decisions disagrees with them. That's how binary they see this. That's why he's continually villainizing the unvaccinated. He doesn't actually give a shit about science or facts. He only gives a shit about villainizing the evil unvaxxed, the dirty masses, the unwashed individuals that aren't part of the elite, like at the World Economic Forum. Most people, as we say, will put up with a lot, but the time will come when even the most tranquil of citizens will say no more. Most people don't particularly like to protest. They don't go to the woods to attend direct action seminars or learn what's the best glue to work on paved surfaces or pick up tips from Antifa's mob. Agree. Further on here, small businesses have been metaphorically burned down. The great titans of Walmart and Costco and Amazon and the pharmaceutical companies, by contrast, have seen COVID as their Klondike. Absolutely. It's been a gold rush for multinational corporations, for billionaires, but everyone else is being decimated by this. The average Canadian is absolutely being decimated by this. And we've covered some of the economic impacts in previous episodes of the show, if you guys didn't catch those episodes. Families have been disjoined in moments of real crisis. I read yesterday that 200,000 restaurant workers have left the industry. The mandates have yo-yoed owners of restaurants into terminal frustration. Yeah. Honestly, like, if you run a restaurant in Toronto, I believe you've been the most locked down of any North American city. And so you're literally out authoritarianizing New York as well as California. Think about that. Those places are crazy with their lockdowns. And yet, again, Toronto ain't nothing. Finally, here in the article, and this is a letter from a truck driver. There's actually a link in this story to it. I encourage you guys to go read the entire letter as well. So this is from the truck driver that wrote the letter. Truck drivers have hit the proverbial wall, and every tactile thing in your life is moved by them. This goes far beyond the mandate issue. That's just the snapping point for me. There are many factors at play. Truckers being the constant proverbial scapegoat for a crumbling supply chain in front and center. I want to be clear that this has been brewing for decades. In the early days of COVID, truckers were being sung as heroes. That melody has ceased. It should be restarted. 100% agree with Rex Murphy on this. I may not agree with him on everything or a lot of things, but 100% on this. Again, it's just fascinating to see how the government, how the Liberal Party, how Justin Trudeau, the moment you're no longer useful to them, they don't give a fuck about you. They literally could care less, and they'll throw you under the bus. They'll do whatever it takes in order to try and maintain power, to maintain the mandates, to maintain to maintain the echo chamber that they want to exist in, where they're the good guys and, just follow orders regardless. Don't think for yourself. Thinking is dangerous. Don't trust your eyes, your senses. Don't look towards other countries and how they're reacting to what's going on. And so wanted to quickly hit upon this from the Toronto Sun as well. Lily, so Trudeau uses trucker protests as political weapon. So the old political maxim that prices go to waste may very well be the motto of the Trudeau Liberals. 100% agree. As the country deals with a shortage of truckers and a high demand for the movement of goods, Trudeau is using this issue to get average Canadians angry at truck drivers who won't get vaccinated and those who support them. Yep, he's definitely, the moment that you were no longer agreeing with him, you went from being heroes to the enemy. And we've seen what he's willing to do to the enemy, right? Remember that speech where he essentially was saying, like, you have the right to make your own medical choices, but you don't have the right to sit beside my child on a train or a bus or an airplane. Fucking hubris. Even before the Trudeau government brought in a mandate on January 15th that requires truckers crossing the border to be vaccinated, Canada was short 23,000 truck drivers. The lack of drivers brought about by tough working conditions and at times onerous regulations may have existed before the mandate, but this mandate is making things worse. Yeah. So again, reminder that somewhere between 16, 20,000 or more truckers now essentially can't make cross-border trips, in addition to the fact that we appear to already be 23,000 truckers short before these mandates were even put into place. So we were already having a supply chain that was taxed, that was coming to its breaking point, and now they're just adding one more nail to the coffin. And there's no real justification for it, and that's what really frustrates me. But what also frustrates me, and again, as people switch their positions as it serves them, I think we do need to embrace certain individuals to, add momentum to these freedom movements. You can forgive, but you don't have to forget. And I think that's really important when we think about the Conservative Party, when we think about a lot of the politicians now that are, switching horses mid-stride or mid-race, simply because they see which way the wind's starting to blow. So Conservative MPs speak out in support of truckers for Freedom Convoy. This is from True North. So a growing chorus of Conservative MPs is speaking out in support of the massive Truckers for Freedom Convoy as it barrels towards Ottawa to protest vaccine mandates and erosion of freedoms under Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Siding with the mass movement of truck drivers, these Conservative MPs are breaking with party leader Aaron O'Toole, who has evaded questions on whether he supports the convoy and whether he will even meet with them once they arrive at the Capitol. Yeah, you want to see a politician say a whole bunch of nothing? Listen to Aaron O'Toole trying to answer direct questions about, do you support what these truckers are saying? Do you support? And he'll just go on and on. I think vaccines are the best tool in our toolbox in order to stop COVID. Well, I mean, at what point in time do you admit that even if it is the best tool, that it's still a fucking shitty tool? Right? We all, essentially, all of us that are paying attention, all of us with our eyes open at this point in time, we understand that this is endemic, that this ain't going anywhere, that this is here to stay, right? Just like the flu is. And for him to continue just to focus on these talking points, like I created a meme yesterday. I'm sure others have created similar memes, but essentially comparing him to an NPC person, because they're literally the same person. They are so beige, they are so vanilla that they wouldn't dare to offend anyone in the hopes that I don't even know how you think at this point in time that you're going to separate yourself from Trudeau if you're literally just going to be like, yeah, I pretty much agree with everything he says, but it'd be nice if they wouldn't spend quite as much money. That's what I hear when I hear the federal Conservative Party at this point in time. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh. You guys let me know in the comment section, but again, I think that it's time to understand that, the prime minister that was partying when it served his purposes, right, when he was campaigning, the one that takes photos without a mask, the one that's taken, what was it, like 78 personal days last year in 2021 during apparently, the worst health crisis we've ever experienced here in Canada, that they also think that truck drivers are too much of a threat if they cross the border. Yeah, that really checks out. Moving on here, another story from the Toronto Sun. Trucker Freedom Convoy rolls through Saskatchewan. So this was just another article I want to share with you guys if you want to dive a little bit deeper into everything that's going on. Again, I really don't want this to be the end of your information journey. Let this just be the jumping off point. Let this be the beginning of your search for the truth. Because, yeah, the truth is hard to find these days, but that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. I've often paraphrased Thoreau's one quote, more than fame, more than fortune, give me truth. That's all I fucking want. And that's all I think a lot of us want at this point in time is honesty. Real fucking honesty. A few more things I want to hit upon here is just like, again, some other organizations now are starting to jump on the anti-vaccine mandate bandwagon for truckers. So and this is from the CBC, federal government won't budge on vaccine mandates for truckers as convoy heads to Ottawa. So most of this is, naturally bashing what's going on. But I did want to highlight a couple key points here. So business groups call for delay. So some business groups, including the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and the Canadian Manufacturing Coalition, are now calling on Ottawa pause the mandate to prevent further supply chain constraints. So Perrin Beattie, president and CEO of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, said supply chains are under extreme stress because of a shortage of shipping containers and severe COVID-related restrictions in China, among other factors. Beattie said businesses don't want to see the federal government make matters worse at this critical time. 100% agree, particularly as we're seeing the narrative fall apart in Europe, as I mentioned ad nauseum at this point in time. But I think it's important. And we've shared those stories on yesterday's video. So again, if you guys missed it, go back and watch that one. But it's important that we understand what's actually going on, because otherwise they'll just lie through the teeth to you. So one last little point here I want to make, and then I'll jump into your guys' chat. Appreciate those of you that are lighting this up as well. If you guys are sharing this on social media, I really do appreciate that, because we all know that, yeah, the algorithm here on YouTube isn't going to do me any favors based upon the topics and subject matters that I discuss. But as I mentioned, the point here isn't to get wide mass acclaim for the Maple Pill. It's literally just in the pursuit of truth, to present a counter narrative to the mainstream corporate press, because I'm not bought, I guess. So this is well from the counter signal. So Bernier supports truckers convoy, O'Toole refuses to say. And this is important to understand. I may not agree with everything the PPC does or everything Bernier does, but absolutely, I appreciate his authenticity, his straightforwardness, his focus on speaking truth, and just the transparency is so freaking key here at this point in time. And it's so insulting, honestly, that most politicians think so little of us that they'd rather just ignore our positions and our perspective, rather than actually have to maybe admit when they've made mistakes, or when maybe, plans they had in place sounded good at the time, but no longer seem to be effective. Again, I'm not expecting anyone to be perfect, but I really would appreciate some truth and some honesty. So jumping in here to the chat, guys, I'll pull it up. And again, appreciate all of you that are supporting the Maple Pill. Awesome. Oh, yeah. So laughing about the fact he said 10 truckers. Again, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on this one. But again, he was asked to confirm and he did say 10. But even if he's saying 10%, what's that based upon? Other than you maybe read it in some corporate press article. The Libero is dreaming. I agree with you, MJS. They are scared. 100% agree. It's very obvious that our politicians are starting to get scared. I personally think that's the only reason we're starting to see the conservatives jump on the bandwagon now, is they realize their base, and that just a lot of Canadians, they're done with it. And again, I'm not saying that it's primarily because of the supply chain, or it's primarily because of trucker vax mandates. I think it's just, we're done. We're tired. We're sick of it. We're seeing other countries open up, and we're wondering, why the hell can't Canada? Just found your channel, subbed. Appreciate the love. Lock the tyrants up. Yeah, I personally think that there should be serious inquiries and investigations around the globe once the dust settles and we get our freedoms back. Step 1 is getting our goddamn freedoms back. Step 2 is holding those accountable and never forgetting the evil that they did impose upon us, and the evil that they wish they could have imposed upon us had we been more docile, had we been more obedient, had we been simply willing to toe the party line indefinitely. Because just imagine if no one spoke up, if the PPC party didn't exist, if Max wasn't out there, doing his stump speeches throughout the election. I think that they would have tried to get away with a lot worse. MJS Drywall, Matt, the update from the organizers say they have 500,000 for across the country, growing by the second. Yeah, 100%. I've been seeing some really encouraging points that they've been making and or some very encouraging updates that they've been sharing. And I'm very excited to see how that all evolves. And again, if there's taking a step back here, if there's 500,000 Canadians show up to Ottawa, what's the population of Ottawa? Like 800,000? That is going to make a statement. But again, even if it's 50,000, that makes a statement. Honestly, 10,000. Because it's freaking winter in Canada. We're literally in the heart of winter. For anyone to even want to go outside, it's minus 30 degrees right now where I live. For me to even want to go outside, it takes a commitment. And while individuals, particularly in the mainstream corporate press, will want to frame this as like, ooh, this is going to be the January 6th in Canada. Fuck that. In my opinion, this is much closer. Again, I'm not saying this is a perfect analogy, but this is much closer to like the Occupy movement. We're just fed up with the entire system being stacked against us. We're done with it. We're pissed off. You give us our goddamn freedoms back. Let us go back to real normal rather than this fake build back better new normal that you constantly pushing down our throats with the World Economic Forum, with the International Monetary Fund, with all that bullshit. Just done with it. MJS, nothing is going to stop this no matter what the government or mainstream media does. I 100% agree. And I truly do hope you're right there, MJS. I wouldn't be surprised if at least 2 to 3 million people show up in Ottawa, bear hug Ottawa. Nobody goes in, nobody goes out. Again, like I said, even if a few 10,000, if 100,000, if 500,000, that makes a huge statement for a country the size of Canada. CTA's revenue will crash. Yeah, I hope they do. I don't believe the Canadian Trucker Alliance is focused on the best interest of their members. And if they are, then I got just a nibbling question about why'd you host your event in Arizona last year during a world pandemic that's so dangerous that you now support vaccine passes? Graham says, we're 100% going tomorrow. So if you guys didn't know Graham, he's part of the group here living at the Citadel. And yeah, I think we're going to drive up and check it out in Kenora. So again, if you guys are based in Kenora and you're going to be checking it out, let us know where you're posted up. I'd love to meet with other freedom-oriented individuals in the area. Organizers have a team of finance lawyers, very organized logistics. It's more organized than our government. Yeah, I wouldn't even argue with that at this point in time. But again, let's take a step back and, steelman this or, review the counter argument. Let's say that it turns out that this is the money raising part of it's the biggest scam of all time. I don't believe it is, but let's say it is here in Canada. It still doesn't matter. The individual grassroots movement, the individuals that I'm listening to on Zello, the people I'm seeing in the Telegram chats, the people I'm seeing on Twitter, they're not all bots. They're real Canadians that are really frustrated and sick and tired of the bullshit. Randa says, super proud of my countrymen at the moment. Absolutely. I felt more pride in the last 24 hours and the last couple of days around this movement than maybe the last 2 years in regards to Canadians. And again, as I mentioned, if it wasn't for the PPC, I probably would have felt zero pride in Canada up until this moment in time. My brother is one of the truck drivers on his way. That's awesome, Mata. And again, I think you should definitely support him, give him a thumbs up from us because a lot of these truckers are taking a risk. They're spending their own money, or a lot of these small business owners are taking a risk by allowing their employees to take corporate vehicles to this protest. So I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart to every single trucker. And again, to those that are making food, that are giving them places to stay, that are just standing on the side of the freezing cold highway in order to show them support. This matters, right? And while the mainstream corporate press will ignore it for as long as possible, there's those of us that won't, that will continue to shine light on darkness. I really appreciate every single one of you that are doing your part, whatever that is. And again, it can be as small as just sharing this video or having a tough conversation with friends and family about what the actual facts are, and that this isn't some, maverick party grifter trying to just steal money from a bunch of gullible truckers. Nah, that's fucking bullshit. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it, Aber and Art. And again, really appreciate all of you guys jumping in the comment section here. I'm just going to hit a few more before we wrap up. We also have donated. We hope all Canadians help support this movement. 100%. If you're interested in supporting it, there's a link to the GoFundMe in the video description down below. Again, there's a lot of different ways to support it, so it doesn't have to be a financial support. I know a lot of people have been struggling over the last 2 years, understandably so. A lot of small business owners are struggling. But again, we've all got a voice. We can all speak out. We can all use social media as a magnifier to the signals we want to see magnified, and shine light on that darkness. Colin says, you're all racist. I can't believe that you're not listening, trusting the politicians who no one trusted 100% with the info that they're getting from their doctors and scientists. Yeah, again, 100% with you on that, Colin. Again, I guess it just blows my mind that in that Global News article that like the most extreme, statements they get is like fucking A. I mean, if you don't hear fucking A almost once a day, are you even Canadian at this point in time? So it's just about to see them bending over backwards to try and stretch the narrative to fit their preconceived notions, because again, if you don't agree with them, you must be stupid. You must be a mouth breather. You must be, a bad actor. And in fact, at this point in time, my greatest concern around the Freedom Convoy and bad actors isn't bad actors that are actually part of the movement. It's either others trying to hijack it, or even more likely, government agents potentially, false flagging it. But again, that's just, tinfoil hat Matt speaking. Findo says, this is just another step towards a Chinese-style socialist credit system. This is so much bigger than most people know. 100% agree. Again, the biggest reason behind why this show even exists is because I understand how lonely it can be going through that journey of going from blue pill, just believing that like, hey, let's, go along to get along. We're all in this together, to red pill of like, hey, maybe these people aren't always telling me the truth. Maybe they don't always have my best interest at heart. Maybe there are nefarious things behind some of their motivations, to black pill of like, oh my God, Alex Jones was right about just about everything. I need to, start prepping. I need to get ready for the end of the world, the economic collapse, 2030, they want me to own nothing. And they're going to tell me I'm happy as I'm eating bugs. And, if I don't have a good social credit score, I won't be able to rent a vehicle or rent a house. Yeah, I understand how this can be a very frustrating, lonely journey for a lot of people. It personally was for me as well. And I just want the maple pill to be a resource. Again, I'm not going to go into the most extreme theories or versions of them at this point in time. One, because I get banned off YouTube. But secondly, for a lot of Canadians, I think they need a gentler journey down the blue pill, red pill, black pill, clown pill. Again, the clown pill is like you get to a point where you're like, okay, I guess I'm just going to laugh at all this craziness because I don't want to just be a nihilist for the rest of my life or waiting for the end of the world. To finally the white pill, which in my opinion is, hey, I'm going to focus on what I can control. I'm going to focus on decoupling as much as possible from the corrupt system. I'm going to try and, decouple from the political system. I'm going to try and build my own networks, try and build resiliency into my life, however you guys define that. For me, it's literally the Problems and Profit Citadel. It's inviting you guys, my audience, to potentially come here and literally move here. And quick update on that, if you guys missed last night's update that I shared on the MMMM show, we just had Kyle and Shay move up here. The first kind of transplants that bought their own property nearby so that they could be near the Citadel and join a community of like-minded individuals. I'm so excited to see how this continues to evolve this weekend. We're hopefully going to invite a bunch of people over, be able to, build some deeper relationships and networks and, figure out who's got what and homesteading and all that good stuff. And again, we're going to have lots of different experiments we're going to play with here at the Citadel as well. So looking forward to eventually getting some laying hens, starting all kinds of different gardens, getting into canning food, growing your own food, and essentially just being more connected to everything in life and focusing on what's really important. That to me is what the white pill is all about. And I appreciate those of you that are acting upon it to whatever degree you're able to. Colin says, while having doctors and scientists who disagree with them fired with what is best for us. Yeah, there's some really concerning things going on in this world. And honestly, at this point in time, I literally believe like we need to all promote and protect Joe Rogan at this point. Again, he seems to be one of the few people that truly has a large platform that's willing to risk everything in order to try and speak truth. and even just explore truth, right? Just ask questions that apparently no one else is willing to explore for fear of being canceled, for fear of going against the mainstream narrative. Again, I don't think that we should put all our hope or stock in any single individual or any entity or organization, except for maybe Ron Paul. Ron Paul may literally be one of the greatest people living today, and probably one of the best politicians in the history of mankind. Literally, if for no other reason than his consistency. But that's a tangent that I'll say for another day. Really do appreciate, there's so many comments on this video. Again, appreciate those of you that are smashing the like button, that are sharing this on social media. But more important than that, speak out, speak up, speak your truth. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow with probably a normal episode of the Maple Pill, but I really did feel that this special report on the Trucker Convoy was more important than anything else I could cover today, because I just see so much misinformation, so many misunderstandings because of what the mainstream corporate press is putting out there. And I appreciate every one of you that are fighting the good fight and pushing for truth and honesty and just authenticity. Again, you don't need to be perfect, but if you can be authentic, I can respect that. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in the next video. And that's it for the Maple Pill.